A very good afternoon, everybody. It's a lazy Friday in Harare. It's certainly getting warmer. It was a long, cold winter, and we did have a couple of victims, and the latest victim was Rufaro. What happened to you?
You
were down and out.
Well, I was not out, but down, yeah.
Well, I thought you were on the other side. I actually thought you were on the other side. And I was going to ask, what's on the other side of death?
Yeah, well, that's an entire rabbit hole episode on its own, what's on the other side. But
well,
it's
good to have you back. Yeah, good to have you back.
In the studio.
Yeah.
And the
you seem to be
better.
okay. And what happened to whiskey being the best cure for colds?
Yeah, this bug was whiskey resistant.
And you've had running battles with the cold, eh?
Yeah, it's been on and off, and the longer it stays with this sort of chilly temperatures, you just know that I'm a victim perpetually. Yeah, I don't like cold weather. I can deal with the heat.
Okay.
Yes, I can deal with the heat. But look,
are you actually okay? Because you've been.
I'm okay. It's still a bit nippy, or especially when it gets towards
in the evening. I think in the evening.
But the weather's better now. It's not as
during the day, but I think in the evening it's still a little bit nippy.
The weather's.
But what does it say about the rainy season? Is it going to be a good rainy season or a bad one?
I don't know. I haven't seen any predictions.
How have you not seen predictions when you identify as a farmer?
Now I'm a farmer, a proper one. I think one of these days I'll take you to the farm, guys, and just showcase what
you're trying to do.
Yeah, what I'm trying to do. Yeah, I've taken it quite seriously.
Okay. What are you growing now?
So
this season, what are you growing?
For starters, I used to just rely on rainfall. But right now, I'm actually investing in a very, a starter pack for irrigation, so that at least I can irrigate part of my crop. So I'll try a lot of things. I haven't really figured out what I want to do. Obviously, there's a lot.
You should learn from George. George has done this for the last 10 years. He's experimented with all the experiments.
Yes. So I'm just beginning.
Exactly what works and what doesn't.
I'm just beginning. So look, you don't quite benefit from maybe hearing from Tinashe, Rufaro, George's story and try to replicate it as it is. Probably what you can pick are lessons, but then you have to go through your own journey. So basically, that's what I'm trying to do.
I'm just saying that you might save yourself a lot of money, because George spent a lot of money experimenting.
I'm not spending a lot of money.
Lost. I think
I love watching pennies. I'm not the type to be spending a lot of money. I'm doing it in a more sort of phased way.
And gradually, okay. Yeah. Did you have a good crop last year?
Look, it was a decent crop, but
everybody had a good crop last year. So
yeah, but it also depends on a number of things. So where I was doing my plot is not really a cropping region. Yeah, it's region 3.
Okay, so all right. So rainfalls will be.
So you managed to choose a place that's not great for growing stuff to try your farming.
It's not like I choose. I mean, that's the land that was available, so I had to make do with what is there. But this year, I've moved on to a different to a different region in Marondera now. So that's a proper farming area. The people there, they do tobacco.
So what are you growing this coming season?
A lot of things. I've also tried my hand on tobacco.
Okay, so you're going to grow tobacco?
Yes.
Are you going to beneficiate and make cigars for me?
Look, we can try it. We can try something that's sort of bespoke. I don't know.
It's one of the things, actually, apart from Mosi, it's one of the things I've been quite curious about, because it turns out Zimbabwean tobacco is world-renowned. It's, all the major cigarette brands globally blend a little bit of Zimbabwean tobacco into.
Well, it turns out they blend all the tobacco in the world. That's the reason why you have tobacco regions from all over, because what you're trying to get is to get the flavors.
Yes. So but apparently ours is quite rich with flavor. Apparently it's.
Well, that's what everybody says. But every cigarette has different blends from all over the world. So that's just how they make cigarettes. Yeah, no, I mean Zimbabwe might have a a peculiar flavor. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, I've gone down that rabbit hole.
Oh, okay.
Because that's what you hear when you're in Zimbabwe. It's like, you need to have Zimbabwean tobacco. But it turns out even in China, they're getting tobacco from Malawi, from Zambia, and
Brazil,
everywhere else, Brazil, everywhere else. Because then when you then make the cigarette, then it's got different flavors and it comes out well. But what one could argue is that we've got perhaps the better soils for tobacco in Zimbabwe.
I used to hear that a lot of that on tea as well.
So, and you haven't been tempted to go into, because apparently it's now legal to grow medicinal marijuana.
The capital outlay there here is quite significant, and also you need a whole lot of licenses.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I know there are a few farms or farmers that have tried that. I think it would be good to just see how they.
I think we're far behind. I think in terms of marijuana, because I think the problem that you're going to find with marijuana, especially in Zimbabwe, is the potency. So our potency now is very weak. And because it's now being grown legally and in these controlled environments, the potency has increased. So previously, our potency was probably maybe, because we grow it naturally, it was being grown naturally, it was probably between 3 to 4%. I think they call it a THC. So that's the
active ingredient.
Ingredient, about 3 or 4%. Whereas now, if you go to America, you're getting potency of around 30-35%.
Gosh.
Because it's a controlled environment, and they're really, going to the ingredients and then just really getting as good in terms of the potency as possible. Whereas we're still way behind the curve. I doubt it very much. I doubt that we have somebody with the sort of potency that you're getting in America.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to have a conversation with somebody who actually knows what they're talking about in that space.
Yeah, definitely. You were saying something about tea.
Yeah,
that turned this into a farming.
Yeah, that our tea was also used in blending, and that it was. Because we are a small growing nation as it were, compared to the likes of Kenya, so
India,
and etc. So it's you don't necessarily find our product being a sort of a standalone product, but it's used in part of the blends that are being made across the world. And there used to be a very very positive review and positive sort of appreciation of how Zim tea performed globally. But I think over the years we've seen even the major tea growing companies sort of scaling down.
So you know how I debunked a lot of the myths around Zimbabwean exceptionalism is when Zimbabwe tobacco, if Zimbabwean tobacco was that great, when Zimbabwe tobacco was at its slowest, were people still smoking cigarettes?
Of course they were.
Were they using Zimbabwean tobacco? It wasn't there, but people didn't miss us. People didn't suddenly say, I think we still need Zimbabwean tobacco. When Zimbabwean tea was at its slowest, what happened?
No, the world
when Zimbabwean cotton. Remember, there was a time when we were being told that Zimbabwean cotton is the best cotton in the world, and we need it when we trade. But when we didn't have David Whitehead, when we had zero cotton ginneries coming out of Zim, the world just continued moving on, and it moved on as if nothing had happened. And we were told again about Zimbabwean crocodiles, the Nile crocodile in Zimbabwe, that you cannot do anything without this
famous Niloticus.
And it turns out that the world just continued going about its ways. So a lot of these are just myths around, you have to create them for the local market and for you analysts, because a lot of analysts are actually very gullible. So you start believing this idea that Zimbabwean tobacco or Zimbabwean cotton or Zimbabwean crocodiles, they're special. Zimbabwean gold is special.
But maybe the other way of looking at it is it doesn't necessarily mean that there is those myths are way off the mark. It just tells you that the world will not stop for you. So they are always.
But the world will stop for you if it was that unique. If the world said, Zimbabwean cotton is some of the best cotton, and we cannot produce without this particular crocodile skin, then the world will stop. But the world doesn't stop. The reason why the world doesn't stop is because actually it's nothing. It's like Botswana and its diamonds. Oh, these diamonds are. Then the Chinese just come up with these artificial diamonds that are clearer and better precision. And because the consumers, the Sharons of this world, cannot tell the difference, that this one was actually,
this one is natural, this one is artificial.
And this one is artificial. In fact, they will go with the artificial. Then certainly Botswana is in a problem. And yet, for the longest, they've been running around with that particular myth that we're different. Diamonds in Botswana, they will always be here and they will always sell. And yet, it's a 100-year-old industry.
But it's a good marketing gimmick
for the locals, but don't buy into it. That's all we're saying, is don't buy into a lot of these myths. I get it. There's a reason why you say it. It's for the local market. You want the local market to have some sort of pride in what they're doing and however they're producing it, because it also then comes down to craftsmanship. So when you have some sort of pride in it, I mean, remember when did De Beers move its sorting into Botswana? Well, maybe 15, 20 years ago? 15 years ago.
I don't know offhand.
I think about 15 years ago. And there was this big hoo-ha that, guess what? We're now finally beneficiating in Africa and in Botswana. And they were projecting 100 years, what the future is going to look like. And then guess what happens? De Beers was already, Anglo De Beers, you could see that they knew what was happening in the world. And this thing has now come to...
Yeah, but Nassim Taleb has this saying about markets, especially when it comes to shortages, He says he's never seen a shortage that hasn't been followed by a glut, and that's, markets respond to price signals. When there's a shortage, the prices go up and more capital is allocated to increase supply, and eventually that supply comes online, and then the prices take a beating. So I think to the extent that we have any endowment in resources, we should exploit it as aggressively as possible, because it's not a given that the demand that we're seeing in the world today is going to be there tomorrow. And that's my biggest gripe with these beneficiation arguments. Firstly, you don't know what the demand is going to look like in the future. We don't have a crystal ball.
Next year,
right now, somebody is willing to pay good money for the raw material. Let's give it to them, right? And then obviously the second point is the skill set that you need to extract is different from the skill set that you need to beneficiate. Why punish somebody who's good at extracting by telling them they can't export without beneficiation?
And somebody who's gone through school, who's gone through an investment proposal and investment committees for the last 10, 15 years, telling people that they're very good at extraction. They're not good at beneficiating.
Exactly.
And then government comes and says, actually, you know what, Rufaro, I think you must specialize in beneficiation. Like, it just doesn't work. Let people want to extract, let them extract. Those that want to beneficiate, there's a reason why they're not in Zimbabwe. There's a reason that they were not in Botswana.
Yeah, you have to also pay attention to the markets. What is it that the market wants and is expecting out of you? So you might actually be doing very well with extracting, and you've got all these buyers taking the product from you as ore or in whatever raw form. But it doesn't necessarily follow that when you start beneficiating, you've got access to those markets. You know what happens with just after land reform? I don't know if it's a myth or it's a story reality that, when one of the big horticultural farms was taken Kondozi, and I think there was produce which was already on the ground. One thing that the guys who had occupied had not sort of anticipated was you needed to sell that product. So the product which they try to sell in the markets are like, no, this
What's
is
that Shona saying about counting your chicks before they hatch?
Exactly.
In Shona, you know, did you? So
I don't know much. So sorry guys.
no, you're letting us down.
Exactly. So you see that then.
So they occupied condos and they were like, and they were counting and they were
exactly like all these flowers, whatever, we're going to sell them. Then you're taking the product, and then the market say no. We because it's the market is also maybe a function of relationships that have been built over time.
Relationships, networks,
and etc.
We should have Edwin Moyo on the show, right? I think he's got a good story.
Fantastic story, and what I like about him as well is that he wrote about his story, and I think Zimbabwean entrepreneurs and business people who have very colorful stories, and I'm delighted whenever some of them actually take the time out to commit to paper and write a book. His book is.
We should hunt him down.
Yeah. I once reached out to him, we should. His is a very interesting story that would also benefit from. So so when you push the beneficiation story, I think you need to be mindful of do we have access to those markets when I was in this. Do you know, like, I wouldn't mention. I went into this jewelry shop in town, and then with a colleague who was trying to buy a piece for his madam. And then, so the comment that he made was like, everything here is genuine gold, but problem is the way they are molded. So I think this was an attempt to beneficiate, like we've got the gold, right? Let's then create
jewelry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But he was like, this will not sell. This will not sell. The craftsmanship is bad. He was saying, like in Dubai, you can get something that is like, it's not gold, but it's done well. So someone would probably say, you know what, I'll pick this. The problem with this pure gold thing is you may have to tell everyone that, it looks bad,
but it's gold.
It's gold.
It's interesting that you say that, because a lot of people actually don't understand this, that just because something is genuine doesn't mean that it naturally attracts a higher price.
It has to be good. It has to.
There's aesthetics. Aesthetics works a lot, and it does happen, especially with food, that sometimes just the presentation on itself can sell, and rather than the taste on the mouth.
Yeah, but I mean, a very good extreme example of this is if you think about, you guys were talking about crocodiles, and definitely you can buy genuine crocodile skin products in Zim, right? But
it's not treated.
You're not, Hermes sells crocodile skin bags for $5,000-$10,000 right? You're not going to do that. Nothing made here, is going to sell for that price. And the reason why Hermes is able to do this is, apart from just their process and craftsmanship and technology, they've been spending billions for decades
branding,
on building this brand,
and brand association, and all sorts that goes around. There's a guy on Instagram, I don't know if you guys follow him, and what he tends to do is he takes about bags, shoes, or handbags.
Okay, this is certainly a you thing. I certainly wouldn't be following this chap.
Well, it's interesting, because he takes this expensive bag, so a $10,000 bag, and then he rips it apart, and then he goes through the leather and he says, is this genuine leather? That's the first thing he wants to identify, and what kind of leather it is, and then the stitching, the craftsmanship, and everything like that. And more often than not, it turns out that a lot of these expensive bags are made out of very cheap leather. It's not like your top tier bags. And sometimes, just for comparison perspectives, is you could take a bag that's worth $500, and it turns out that it's genuine leather, genuine craftsmanship, everything is just done properly. But unfortunately, it doesn't have the big brand to it. And for me, it was an enlightening moment I had. I think I've explained this to you previously when I was in Paris. And because I love English shoes, and I think that they're some of the best craftsmanship in the world. But I was always like, you know what? They are less expensive, than your Parisian or Italian shoes, and yet your Gucci, Louis Vuitton would be, maybe 3, 4, even 5 times than what you're getting in Northampton in England. And I couldn't explain. I was like, why is the world misprizing the English shoes? And the explanation was the English are very bad at marketing. And they don't understand. They think that it's about the guilt, it's about the craftsmanship, it's about this guy who's been doing it for the last 80 years and the product will sell itself. Well, no, it won't.
Someone has to sell the product.
Someone has to sell the product, and there has to be brand association and a whole lot of
Or
things.
maybe they're just not interested in selling to Philistines. They want to sell to people who actually appreciate the craft.
Well, no, because now they're suffering because Northampton, which used to be a big shoemaking zone, a lot of them are dying, and the industry is dying. So, and that's what naturally happens, right? I mean, there's the great Louis Vuitton story, LV story, is that LV, because you always wonder, like, okay, it's been around for about maybe 100, 200 years. And
It's
you're like,
old.
okay, so what happened to the other competitors, right? Because LV was not the best. And it turns out it wasn't the best. There were many others. But LV has sustained itself because of branding.
Yep.
And I think that they've done a fantastic job, I must say. But anyway, let's talk about something that is good news, is RTG. And you guys are the analysts, so I'm quite happy to hear what you guys think. They've bought a building. It's a commercial building for about $5.6 million. I think it's a great thing for them, diversifying out of Zim, and then also tapping into a very growing market, especially the Capetonian market. It's a growing tourism market. But let's hear what your thoughts are. Do you think that this is a great move that they've made, and we should support them, and we should hear more and more of these stories? What do you guys think?
So I had missed it, and then I actually picked it on your X timeline, and then I read the story. Look, it's what came to mind. The first thing that came to mind was, those days of Mikos buying the Cape Grace,
and then African
Grace
Adventures,
the Rose Bank, and then the
Ghana.
Adventures, the Ghanas, the attempt to rebrand, create a unique brand within the group, maybe as a way to try and reduce the cost of franchise fees they're paying to. Is it IHG?
The owner of the Holiday Inn and
Holiday Inn.
Intercontinental brands.
And then I was asking myself, what went wrong and what's different now, But I think I get where you're coming from, that any attempt to try and diversify away from...
Maybe help us. What went wrong?
And
or did anything go wrong? Because as far as I'm concerned, Cape Grace, nothing really went wrong.
It's when they opened it, it was... You could get a room there for about $100 a night. Now it's like one of the premium hotels in Cape Town. It's $600-700 a night for the Cape Grace.
Exactly. So
and if they were still holding on to it, as me calls it, would have
I don't think it's similarly with Zimsan, the Cape Grace. It's a top tier hotel. It's just that
you mean the
Grace, I think
the Grace,
it's
in Rosebank.
In Rosebank, I think that the big issue is obviously with hotels is you need to continuously renovate. I think that they've got a lifespan of about 20-30 years, and then you need to continuously be renovating. But I think that those are not bad stories, because those hotels are still there. Even in Ghana, those hotels are still there. And if Zimsan had stayed with those hotels, don't you think that the value would have been with those hotels than with the local hotels?
Yes,
so I think that there's still value there. But let's hear your views, Rufaro.
Look, I'm a bit bullish. I think I like how they've turned around that business over the last 5 or so years. So before this move, they've certainly the current management team has done a great job. And I think it's just, it makes sense to look outward to opportunities like that. Cape Town is a thriving city. It's a lot of traffic that actually ends up in Victoria Falls and in Zimbabwean resorts actually starts
from Cape Town. Yeah,
starts in Cape Town. So one of my pet peeves about the tourism industry in Zimbabwe is that we have done really poorly in getting selling ourselves out there. A lot of tourists will think that Victoria Falls is in Zambia or South Africa, right? So I think I think it's whether they'll execute or not.
I mean that's secondary, right? But just the vision, the strategy. I think it's the right way to go. And we get a lot of pushbacks, and people will think that we're being paid by RTG. Just for clarity's sake, we're not being paid by RTG.
We are analysts, so if anything of interest
comes up, we've got an opinion.
We look at it.
I actually think it's a fantastic thing that they're doing, but I think you make a very good point that as far as strategy is concerned, they're right on point. Will they execute it well? Well, judging from their hotels in Zimbabwe, they need to change a number of things. Yeah, because I think if they executed the way they're executing with their products in Zimbabwe, I think that they will find Cape Town to be a lot more unforgiving than Zimbabwe.
Okay, Cape Town is much more competitive, but you see, I mean, to be fair to them, the constraint in Zimbabwe is capital. The reason, it's not like all of these, everybody in the hotel industry who's running a decrepit property is unaware of the need to constantly renovate and improve. It's just the capital hasn't been there, and it's been incredibly challenging for the industry. Whereas South Africa is a different story. They don't have challenges with capital. So even just like in Zimbabwe, just the idea of converting a commercial property to a hotel, trying to raise money to do something like that, it seems like an impossible ask. Like if you think about the Harare CBD today, there's a lot of these office buildings that are suffering in terms of occupancy.
Well, it's the deadbeat fathers that cannot change. Well, it turns out, the truth is a lot of, property owners would love to turn those into apartments.
Into apartments or hotels.
But apparently the bylaws
change use
do not allow it.
Yeah, I know that NRZ actually is actually at some advanced stage of converting Chest House into a hotel property. I think when you look at the CBD right now, there's actually scope for multi-use. When you look at those buildings, so you could still have some shopping malls, retailers,
apartments.
Then you put apartments at upper levels. But one of the reasons that have been cited for this, there's the regulation, but there's also the amount of capital that is needed, maybe in terms of the plumbing that is there, or even the electricity. So when you start having apartments, obviously you need to be able to.
That's a very good point. Yes. And I actually wanted to push back on Rufaro's argument that the problem in Zimbabwe is lack of capital. I don't think so, because RTG had 5.6 million. And they decided, should we put this 5.6 million in Zimbabwe or should we put it in Cape Town? I would argue that the problem in Zimbabwe is the return on your capital. That, yes, you've got the 5.6. If you put it in Zim, what sort of return are you going to get? Compared to going into Cape Town, what sort of return are you going to get in Cape Town? And I think that they will get a higher return in Cape Town. In Zimbabwe, unfortunately, especially for these big city hotels, I think that the market is thin. That's why a lot of the boutique hotels do very well, because they're just looking for 30, 40 guests. So they can, cater to those 30, 40 guests. But looking at 200, 300 roomed hotels, it's very difficult because the market is just not there. Whether you try it, it's just not there. But you go to Cape Town, then suddenly the world is your oyster.
Yeah, so the operating costs as well. So the cost of renovating property in South Africa It's much lower.
Producer, we need new chairs. Huh?
Okay, I bet you. We'll get new chairs. So I was saying the cost of renovation, it's much higher in Zim compared to South Africa. So yes, it means even in terms of the outlay after maybe acquisition, it has to be much lower. And also even just the cost of maintaining the operations it should be much lower there. Here now you have to invest in whether it's a generator or you have to
cost of operating is very high.
Yeah, but also my other pet peeve,
and also water, potable water, and etc.
My other pet peeve in terms of the tourism sector and business travel in general is just the skies, the extent to which they regulate it so much that it becomes incredibly expensive to actually fly around. So I can't fathom why a flight from Harare to Victoria Falls is $400. It's a shorter flight than Harare Joburg, but you can fly to Joburg for $220.
Victoria Falls is $400.
Yeah, it's
return or one
return,
way?
Right?
Okay.
It doesn't make sense, and you if it was priced correctly, you'd probably have 3 or 4 flights every day. You'd have much more traffic,
and also Victoria Falls is a very expensive place.
Yes,
I think even for domestic.
But
tourism,
and again, it's if you think about it from a cost volume profit analysis perspective, if the occupancies are generally significantly higher, then they can offer you the rooms cheaper, right? So part of the reason why it's so expensive is because the traffic is just not there.
Well, it's the market segmentation that they've done. So from time immemorial, Victoria Falls was never marketed for the domestic market because it's seen, even internationally, it's seen as a premier resort. Mm-hmm. So if you've got a premium product and you're targeting the extremely elite, rich Americans, rich Europeans, and there was a big market as far as that was concerned. Mm-hmm. And then Zim turned, and then they had to look for another market. So that's when they started selling it to the domestic market, but they still sold it as a premium product.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, the Zimbabwean market, they cannot afford, and I think that's the problem that. And
it's not just about affording. It's about competitiveness as well. It's cheaper to fly to Durban than to fly to Vic Falls.
And it doesn't look premium when you go to Vic Falls. You go to some of those hotels without naming.
I actually think that the Victoria Falls itself is premium because you're saying how many Victoria Falls. How many falls are there in the world? Mm-hmm. Then how many Victoria Falls are there in the world? So, it turns out it's just one. Mm-hmm. So as far as the target market is concerned, I think the product itself is premium. But the offering around it, which is the execution around it, then you have to go into the boutique hotels, which cater for 30, 40 people. Then yes, you're getting a premium product. Okay. But outside of that,
if you put it that way, yeah.
But then outside of that, it's very difficult. I mean, we've stayed at Elephant Hills, and we know the problems with the Elephant Hills. It's because it's very difficult to get 200, 300 rooms and to sustain it profitably in the Victoria Falls. And then to sustain it, I think that's where the challenge is, because the market is just not there to get continuously 200, 300 people. Whereas in Dubai, it's 3,000, 4,000 rooms that are continuously, 80, 90% occupancy around the year. Then you can sustain the sort of development that you actually need. But we can't. And I think the sweet spot is like 50 rooms. Then you've got a good hotel. But beyond 200 rooms, just to sustain it, you can see with the Elephant Hills. I mean, it's when was the last time it was actually renovated? Which is, interestingly enough, I think it's maybe 20 years ago. But it looks like it's been there for the last 100 years.
You're not going to make any friends in African sun.
Anyway.
Look, it boils down to marketing also, because when you look at if you're just looking at the product, the way you'd put it, that when you look at the Victoria Falls specifically, it's actually a much more superior product than whatever you can get in Dubai, minus the good offerings that are there, the nice hotels, the nice services, or whatever. So it's really a marketing. I remember, I once went to this place in UAE where there were some artificial falls, but the traffic there was huge. People were taking selfies and whatever, but there's like artificial where they're actually pumping water up, and then there's whole thing that is sort of made up, and but we have got a natural falls, and but I think the marketing.
Well, another important lesson that we learn is sometimes the frills can actually be the product itself. So when you fly out, the difference between coach and first class, it's like 10 times, right? But you're
the price difference, you mean?
Price difference, but you're on the same journey and
you land at the same time.
And but it's the frills around first class, just purely the frills around first class, and that then allows you to charge even a whole lot more. And I wish that that's what they would do with the Victoria Falls. That the product itself is great, so whoever wants to see the product, you can go in.
Look, I think
it's accessible, but it's what sort of frills can we have around the Victoria Falls?
I think the vision is there, so I don't know whether a lot of our audience is aware, but so the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange is no longer regulated by SEC. There's a new international finance center in Victoria Falls that is the regulator of the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, and the idea is to create like a sandbox where you don't have exchange control, money can move in and out freely. And it's kind of like the financial equivalent of a special economic zone. I don't think we've done a great job in terms of marketing it and making noise about it. But I think that certainly, given its location in terms of from sub-Saharan Africa, it's probably easier if you live in Joburg or Nairobi or Lagos. To go to Vic Falls and to go to these other financial centers like Mauritius or Seychelles, if all the banks there, all the accounts, the nostrils are 100% funded offshore, I think it could actually be incredibly successful as a financial hub.
And
if the legal framework,
what role does AIinBusiness play?
If the legal framework is there, if we actually ring fence it from a legal and regulatory perspective, which I think we're halfway there with the International Finance Center rules and regulations, but I think it needs to be more robust. But if that framework is there and you get one or two international players, financial institutions, to actually set up shop there and say, hey, you know what, we've done our due diligence on this framework, it works, we're protected, we're safe, all the deposits that we're taking, none of them are actually domiciled here. They all, the money is actually in New York or London or whatever. I think it will do extremely well, and it will be great for tourism as well, and it will be great.
I think you're being extremely generous with your comments, but let's hear.
I just wanted to say, how far safe is it from molestation by central bank and the Minister of Finance in terms of the regulation? I'm sure when the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange was introduced, one of the key attractive aspect was around retention, 100% retention.
Yes, and then they changed. They chopped and changed.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's hardly five years after its introduction, the most attractive aspect of it
was changed.
Bastardized.
Yes, without warning. So now the question will be, how foolproof is it? How secure is it? From
the only certainty in Zimbabwe is uncertainty. So
but if you say to the banks, right, and
I think it's not about the banks.
Yeah,
his point is how safe is whatever you're trying to say from government's hands and from the central bank.
Yeah, look, we really need to work on chopping and changing.
Yeah.
See, there you go. There's an interesting bit that's been going rounds that, the sort of analysis that we've done, that actually AI can do a better analysis and it will do so in seconds. Let's think about that. And you've dabbled in this because you actually employ analysts, and then you look at what, I know a lot of people will be worried about their jobs around about this time, but I think we must discuss this. What are your thoughts when you use AI to generate analyst reports and what you're saying? And then we can get into what AI and what it means around the world.
So
for you?
We count ourselves as early adopters of AI. So we actually use it quite extensively from within the organization. And I think what it does is it has really taken away all the mundane kind of work that we used to do, and just then leaves an analyst with just focusing on really creating value, or making sure that the product is much better. I mean, it does everything that you want quickly. So, I mean, the days of, for example, at the very core, the very basics, the days of making some grammatical errors is gone. So you're almost assured that whatever you are sending out, it's been copy edited. It's copy edited, yeah. It's almost 100% correct. So that on itself is actually very good. And then you get to do the work much faster. What we then learned is you also have to learn how to prompt it properly. Because I think that will then sort of distinguish between someone who's good in using AI and someone who's just trying.
Can your audience tell the difference between an AI-generated report and one that your analyst has generated, apart from the grammar?
Yes, I don't know if they can tell the difference. We'll obviously hear from them, but I think what we've managed to do internally is really to say you cannot entirely rely on AI. Like, you can't ask it sort of an open-ended kind of question and then expect it to produce a report that you just then send out into the market without checking. You get the best of results when you actually are prompting it and you give them sort of a small bite size. So you want to do a whole report on the economic outlook of Zim. You can't just say, AI, please do an economic outlook of Zim and give me a report which is like 10,000 words. You do that,
what's your
something.
Okay, so take us through what a typical prompt looks like for you.
So I think the first thing that you need to do is, like, you're an analyst, you should know you should have some sort of a layout of what you want. So it's an economic report or whatever. You want to say, typically an economic report, what should it have? So from the start, okay, it needs to have, whether it's an introduction, what are the key macros that it has to look at, and at what depth, what is it that it has to do on each specific macro.
And that's
number.
how you're prompting. What if I just say, produce a Goldman Sachs type report on Zim economy?
So I've played around with those kind of prompts. It gives you something that will not be, it won't be at the level that
top
you want.
Tier.
Yes.
Okay.
So first thing, you need to know how a Goldman Sachs type of report looks like. Mm-hmm. If you know that, then it means you know the framework, you know the layout. So basically, if you have got a copy of a Goldman or JP Morgan kind of report on you, you can then, I found it we have actually created some very good report by just going almost paragraph or section by section.
Okay.
Yeah, where you're like, okay, we like this, the way, the framework and the layout, and then we are prompting one by one. Or you can prompt it.
Then AI becomes a very useful tool.
Yes.
Okay.
Or you can even just do the quick one, your release one, and just say, give me an outlook. Or assuming that you are a top-rated analyst at a top-tier global investment bank like Goldman Sachs, and you have to prepare a report. Or assuming that you're a top-tier advisor at McKinsey and you are presenting to a client who is like a sovereign fund in Dubai, and you have to produce this kind of report. and then now do this, right? It gives you something. It's probably not it doesn't cover as much as you want, but it picks all critical areas. Now you say, okay, now I've seen this. Can you go deeper, provide more thorough and detailed on this section? Maybe the investment thesis, bearing in mind that we are actually in Zimbabwe where there are these constraints. Now it gets into the stuff that you really want, and then you are done with this section, go to the next section. Now you are using the framework that has been created from start to then go deeper. And when you do that, also look at the results. And if you think that, because there's a lot of hallucination and also creative responses that can come out of AI. So you look at it and say, no, my guy, this is not what I'm looking for.
It's actually personalizing it. No?
Yeah, of course.
You're having a conversation.
You're having a conversation with this guy. No, this is...
Why is it a guy and not a girl?
I don't care. Yeah, so it's really good, but you just need to know how to prompt it properly, and you have to just learn. So there are all these different AI assistants, so you need to know which one works well for me. I like Google's Gemini, but when I'm doing my work, I'm opening the three of them.
Which one?
DeepSeek, ChatGPT, and Gemini.
Are you on the paid?
I actually recently moved onto the paid.
Okay.
So I'm now using Gemini.
Because as you do the way you're doing your report, when you're on the paid premium services, it actually learns. So it then says, "Oh, okay."
Yes, this is how.
Yeah, because it remembers your history
and it remembers your history. But you actually prompt it and you say, "I want you to remember this and always give me the reports in this particular format." And
so just today I got this this case that I have to work on, like that is from the legal side, and I went into Gemini Pro, and I was prompting it like for almost most of today, and the kind of results that I'm getting there are amazing. But these are not the results that you can get by just saying, you know what, I've got this case, help me solve it. You need to know exactly what you are looking for. Okay. And you, in this case now also, you have to feed the AI. So you have got all these documents, maybe it's the Constitution or the Criminal Code or the commentary or the acts or some cases that we can get from Zimli and etc. and say, you know what?
So, and it's able to digest.
I've got all this
material.
Yeah,
that would spend 3-4 days reading.
Exactly.
Now it just digests.
Yeah, then you are asking you are prompting section by section. Start doing this. Don't be lazy and just say AI just do everything for me. You also have to work. You can actually spend the whole day.
Fantastic. So Rufaro, you believe? So Rufaro, you believe in AI nirvana?
Well, I would never characterize it that way, but
well, that's how it looks like from where we sit. But please indulge us. Where is the future? Or perhaps before we get into the future, how do we encourage local businesses, especially in Zimbabwe, to actually start engaging AI, and what are the sort of steps that they should take, things that are very useful that they can engage AI with, but also then give us an overview analysis of the future of AI.
Yeah, so I think AI is the next big thing, and I think it's a really big deal, and I find it remarkable that we're only starting to have a conversation.
We didn't talk about, because we had 2 or 3 takes. Could you please talk about what you're actually drinking?
You guys are having water. What happened to your concoction?
Well, I don't know what happened. Today, everything was just,
So you should blame it on
disoriented.
Which guy, I don't know where he is or where she is.
Yeah, we know who to blame.
Well, today's tipple is, for the first time, can you believe this, Tinashe? Courtesy of Zia.
Really? What happened?
It's been a good week for us. So just moments ago, you were like, "Oh no, you have to change these chairs." You know how I work. So if you work very hard and we start seeing some flaws from the particular desk or line of business that you're doing, you don't have to prompt me. I'll just know, like, Tinashe deserves this. Okay. So this guy has been doing very well lately from one of our businesses. And I just thought, you know what, let me just incentivize him. He's like,
Well done.
So he owes this to himself because he's been more focused, hardworking. Even when he was down with the flu, he was still putting in the hours. So look, you deserve
well
it.
done. So you deserve. Okay, you deserve it, Shumba.
Yeah, so
what is it?
It's summer. I wanted to have something that's easy drinking that I can have with ice and water. This is a fantastic blend from Shivers, the Gold Signature. It's
what is it?
Spicy. It's Shivers Regal.
Okay. What is it? Is it?
So it's not a single malt like I normally have. It's a blend. So it'll.
Okay.
I don't like what they've done with the new bottle. I think they've gone overly commercial. But otherwise, the beverage is
fantastic. Yeah.
So cheers.
Apparently, we're not doing so well. We didn't get our concoction. We didn't get our concoction. We didn't get anything. And our seats are falling apart.
No, complaining won't get you the results you want. Just keep on your grind. Look, you're also doing very well. I think this week some very interesting and profitable leads came from you. So I'll certainly be making a plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you might get a chair upgrade in the foreseeable future.
I hope so. All right. So tell us. When I think about it, like at a global macroeconomic level, like just the amounts of capital that are being deployed in AI, they're eye-watering. You're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, just being allocated to this, AI revolution. Just this week, actually, there was an announcement that OpenAI, I think, they've got some employees who have shares and they need some liquidity, so they're doing a $6 billion transaction to make cash available to some of their employees at a valuation of $500 billion. That is just incredible. So I think this revolution, it's a really big deal. I think it's going to change the world. I think it's already changing the world. The way Ranga works, the way we work with AI, we're just so much more productive. And it's not just in finance and capital allocation. I think you're having a great time. You love photography. And I've seen a bunch of the images that you've created using AI to fiddle with photos and render them, filter them in a certain style. So I think we're early days. I think AI today has all these limitations, like Ranga articulated, but the rate of improvement is just insane. It's just so quick. Like, one of the fun facts that... So how you convince somebody who doesn't believe in AI that, okay, if they're a senior executive, and typically those are the people who watch the show, how can they get started in AI? And what do they need to do that can actually improve, so that in a week's time they're like, you know what, my life has improved because of AI, and I think I've now bought into it. What do they need to do?
So I think, without actually spending any money, right? Because at the entry level AIs are all free, right? There's a version of ChatGPT that's free. There's a version of Gemini that's free. There's a version of Grok that's free. All of the foundational models.
Access Grok, we can't access.
Okay, well, you need a VPN. So, but if you have a VPN, you can access Grok. Initially, that was true as well for ChatGPT. You couldn't access it in Zimbabwe 2-3 years ago without a VPN. But now it's so eventually, I'm sure it's going to come online. But for now, you need a VPN. But I think, so there's a lot of material out there that's free. And, if one of the experiments that I would run if you're a senior executive and you're in the business of producing reporting, whether it's board packs or lower level, one of the experiments that I would encourage everybody out there to run is just take some of your previous reports, upload them into an AI, and then when you're preparing your next report, say, hey, this is the latest information, like the numbers, the financials, and some of the background raw data, and say, prepare the next version of this report and see what it produces, and fiddle with it and just play with it. You know, it's going to get some things wrong, it's going to hallucinate, but you'll be amazed at how it actually improves your productivity in terms of just producing your next set of reports. I think it's very good at that sort of thing where there's already a previous report with a structure and framework, and then the underlying data is available, and you can feed it and you can play with it. You'll find where it took you 3-4 days to prepare a particular report, it might take you less than an hour. And then obviously if you enjoy success in that space, then you can just run experiments in other things as well.
Yeah.
I think
you could literally take your notes when you're taking notes in a meeting, take those notes and then put it into AI, into an LLM, and it can generate a full-on report.
Yeah, or just record your meeting, and then it will transcript it for you. It will prepare minutes for you, and if you wanted to prepare an executive summary, it will prepare an executive summary. If you wanted to prepare a report based on the conversation that you had, it can do that. If you wanted to add more color and do some additional research, it can do that as well. I mean, it's an incredibly powerful tool, and the entry level and even the premium levels, right? So if you want to pay for ChatGPT or Gemini, like at an individual level, I think it's $25 a month for a very useful tool. And if you're, and I think the top, like at the other end of the spectrum, like for the really technical, heavy user, you're not going to spend more than $300 a month. And if you actually
can write code now,
because
apparently
it can write software. It can debug software. And then if you actually think about it, so I actually think it's a force multiplier, right? So,
but we've also seen reports about the limitations of AI, where I think it was something like close to 85% of people who are using AI or have engaged AI from a technical perspective, where they're saying it still has heavy limitations. So while it's very useful at a very rudimentary level, just gleaning through and gathering information, it's very difficult, or it's still not as precise or as great as a human being is in just making decisions and in getting to the heart of the matter of what an issue is. It can't read body language, for example, in a meeting.
Yeah. So I think it's unfair now when you try to compare the human being with AI, because so yes, you are very good, you are very technical in your area, but the truth is you acquired that technical expertise over time. So these are learning sort of tools. So it's so you find that where they are found wanting is because they haven't learned enough of that particular subject, and that's where you have to be good at what you are doing in terms of the prompting and being able to use it, where you are basically teaching it what you want.
Okay.
And if you are doing it in your specific account, the beauty about it is over time it has got this history of the things that you do, of the queries that you have put in there, and maybe even the data.
It's also learning.
It's learning. Okay. Right, and I saw that quite a bit of that because of how information on Zim is quite scarce on quite a number of issues, like maybe again onto the legal side where you'd ask it something and then it just creates all these very
fake cases.
Right. It's also because it's actually harder to get the cases in the first place for Zim. You want to get it from a law report which is bound, like the traditional guys, they've got all these impressive looking big books or whatever behind them. These are like cases that are bound, and so it may not have access to that. Fine, there are some websites that have started a few years ago to sort of curate some cases, whatever, but they have not become that mainstream to a point where an AI can quickly go there. So what you have to do is direct it. This is my source. Go to this specific website
and then pick up
this and that. And
so Rufaro, we're talking about
and give you the best results. One last, as an executive, so you are running a big group. So let's say it's holding a financial services holding company. You are getting a report from your guys in asset management, a report from guys in insurance, in banking, whatever, all this. I think back in the days, guys would just slip in something there because they know that the boss won't be able to
He's not going to go through everything.
Yeah, he's not going to go through everything. Right now, you just get a report, you feed it into AI, you ask it, you prompt it to look for specific things that are closest to how you do your thing.
But it brings about issues of security. Because a lot of these, confidential information that you're feeding into AI.
So I don't know. Maybe it's
what
one.
The text. It would be interesting to hear what the technologists within companies are doing around security. And information.
That's an important point. I don't know how you can do
sharing
that.
Of information.
Yeah, maybe to an extent, what you can possibly do is on that when you get the document, you sort of block out specific references to say people or to institutions or whatever. Then you just maybe leave out the numbers and the narrative without really making reference to a specific, Sure. It will then just do.
Yeah, no, definitely. I get your point.
Look at it as an hypothesis.
So our interaction with AI is purely at LLM level, which is large language models. Yeah. But AI is a whole lot more than LLM.
True.
Do you see AI, piloting planes? Definitely, as far as driving cars. Definitely, that's coming around. But the point I wanted to make is, do you think that regulation is going to be more amenable and malleable to the fast pace in which AI is going?
So, okay, fun fact about planes. So about 10 years ago, before AI, most modern planes can take off and fly themselves and land without an actual pilot.
So it's just purely regulation.
So it's just purely regulation.
The reason why you need a guy in a cockpit is regulation.
And the last spate of accidents that we've seen in the airline industry is actually human error. So the human is actually the problem. We're probably better off relying on
hence my question, because my question is around regulation. Do you see it being unfettered so that we then allow AI?
Yeah, so
the benefits of AI, or regulation is actually going to impede the impact of AI?
It's an interesting question, because if you look at it from a global perspective right now, so for example, Europe has got the most AI regulation in the world, and none of the major AI companies are based in Europe. Right? The Americans don't have any meaningful AI regulation, and like 4 or 5 of the world's top foundational AI companies are actually based there. China's doing extremely well with AI. DeepSeek is like one of the top AIs in the world. But of course, it's got certain limitations. Like if you ask it about Tiananmen Square or democracy or all of these things that are taboo in China, it will just say
freeze.
It will freeze. So it's got these it's got certain philosophical limitations. I think. Yeah, but if you look at the major ones that we use here, ChatGPT, Gemini, those are based in the US.
No, but I want you to talk more around AI beyond LLMs.
Oh no! AI is changing the world,
and how, the impact of regulation. So let's talk about medicine. Do you see us getting to a point where we actually don't need a doctor? That AI will literally treat us, and at home, and whenever, medicine on demand. Do you see that occurring? Yeah, especially given the regulatory environment and how regulation can stifle the innovation itself.
Actually, in Zimbabwe, Econet had a product a few years ago, a telemedicine product, and that was scuttled by regulation. I think the lobby, which is driven by doctors, basically decided that was a bad idea, and it was it was illegal. And but a lot of people would benefit from being able to access a doctor telephonically. But so I think you definitely have incumbents who have regulatory moats around their business, right? And they feel threatened by some of this progress because it then might have a significant impact on what fees they can charge. So you're absolutely right that you're going to see a lot of regulatory pushback.
So the interesting one, which Zia, I want to hear your views on, is then in law we don't need a magistrate, we don't need judges. In the future, could you see a scenario where that could happen?
You'd still need them, but
what for?
But these judicial officers will be assisted by AI.
The law is blind. Like the epitome of the idea of justice is somebody who is a machine, more or less close to a machine, where they just really look at the facts of the matter and they judge on that, and then maybe beyond that, when you then appeal, you can then appeal to a human being because that's what you're looking for. But when you just need somebody to make a judgment, especially at the lower courts, like magistrate, it should just be really simple and straightforward. Or do you also believe that regulation, because it's people losing their jobs, that we're still far from it?
Yeah, look, my argument is not really around job losses. It's about I accept AI as for now as a tool to assist every professional in the way that they do their work. And I think certain professions are given to moving much faster to maybe people-less, if we could put it that way, than other professions. So I think, so you look at maybe specifically for the courts of the justice delivery system, decisions are going to be made that have got consequences on real people. I think it will be good to have a real person in as much as maybe the decision-making process is assisted by AI, but the actual maybe delivery of the verdict or the actual interrogation or whatever facilitation of the trial process is done by a human being. Because
I think he's trying to protect. Okay, let's simplify it. Traffic offenses. Why do we need a human being, as far as that's concerned?
Yeah. So definitely there are some that are really that straightforward.
So unless it's
because the consequences are, it's a traffic offense, the worst thing that can happen to you, maybe it's a fine or whatever. But someone is facing a murder charge, right? And the worst thing that they can get until recently was death penalty. So right now it's still life sentence and it's still huge.
But I thought it was just purely technical because ours is not ruled by jury, where it's your peers, right? So that could bring in people who don't understand the law. But if it's purely on a technical perspective, if the facts are laid, then AI should be able to make a judgment.
But the human side. So like someone is giving.
So that's the sentencing.
Yeah. So even in terms of the entire trial process, right? So you are making your presentation or representation to the magistrate or to the judge. There's besides the facts, besides the law, there's also some little nuances that are more personal. So we look at the demeanor. How are they? So when you say they are remorseful, I don't think AI will be able to pick that much better than a person saying, the way they are.
But that has to do with the sentencing.
No,
but not the at the beginning where we want to know, are they guilty or not? Which is purely a technical. And the whole idea was, Lady Justice is blind. Like, is this not the epitome of that idea that Lady Justice is blind? Lady Justice is not supposed to look at your body language. Lady Justice is supposed to weigh the effects of the...
But I also push back to what Ranga said. This idea that AI can't read your body language, it might be true today, but I don't think it's going to be true indefinitely.
Okay.
You know, so I think that... because basically,
but Lady Justice was never meant to read your body language.
But it's important. It's important to see.
If you're lying or if you're not lying, or if you're
the Roman idea, the classical Roman idea of Lady Justice being blind was it's not supposed to read your body language. It's not supposed to read.
Imagine a situation where maybe it's a cross-examination. You know, I mean, just in any setup, even when you're just starting, someone, they are responding to your questions nicely. They look very confident and whatever. Then you post this really hard one. Then they start, becoming very uncomfortable, like scratching their body and whatever. That on its own, that's why even the laws would say, explain, why are you scratching your body? Why are you agitated? They actually want that written in the record, that there was a moment when a question was posed and this person behaved in a very
We're not
way.
lawyers, but to me, the little I've read on jurisprudence is the idea of Lady Justice being blind
but I
is...
hear you, it's not entirely... I like where Shumba, the point that he raised, that, you know what, this thing is progressive. Maybe as we're just starting, let's have AI maybe in the court to help with the really technical aspect of facts and the law, which the judicial officers might possibly miss. And then they are the one, probably they've got their tablet here, and as the two parties are making their submission, this thing is tabulating and say, okay, this is a strong point, this and that, and they're seeing that as it's going, right? So that's
a lot of calc.
Exactly. Even when the AI assistant has sort of come up with a verdict of some sort, they must be able to say
it's objective, verifiable, and
or to say maybe there's one aspect which AI missed, and then all that they have to do is say, you know what? Okay, I get this verdict. What if you add this angle because of this thing that I've picked in the submission? Then I say, given that new information, maybe the verdict or the sentence does not have to be 10 years. Maybe it has to be 7 years.
Okay.
So you still need human intervention.
I won't push back. I'm not a lawyer. And also we've run out of time. But before we close, there's an important thing that, we cannot finish the show without talking about it, because it's geopolitical, but it does affect us, and it does affect where the world is going. And this is a Russia and Ukraine war. We saw everybody scuttling to America. It started with Putin in Alaska. And then we had the European leaders with Zelensky in the Oval Office. What's your reading of everything that's happening? Are we coming to a close? Are we closer to a peace treaty as far as that war is concerned, or this is just a charade and it's just musical chairs? What's your view?
It's fascinating for me. I've really enjoyed following all of this, and I'll share some fun facts with you actually about Alaska, and why, could possibly have been going through the Trump's administration's mind when they chose that as the venue. So I don't know whether you're aware, but Russia used to own Alaska until 1867, and they sold it for 2 cents an acre to the Americans. So it must have been bittersweet for President Putin to visit Alaska and have a summit there with Trump. Look, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball how all of this is going to pan out, but I do think that because the war started in 2022 in the middle of President Biden's tenure, and Biden never met Putin after the invasion. He never had.
Was it by design, or
Never had
it
a
was
meaningful
just,
conversation with him.
what was it? Because that was his intention. His intention was not to talk to an aggressor, or was it just?
I think it was. I think
impossibility.
I think it was ideological from the Biden administration. I think they took the view. I could be wrong, but I think they took the view that Putin was a bad guy and we don't talk to bad guys. And I think the Trump administration has a much more pragmatic perspective. It doesn't matter whether you're a good guy or bad guy. Like we need to address issues.
Well, I suppose after 3 years, reality is a way of asserting itself.
So whether love or hate Trump, I think he's a pragmatist. I think he's a deal maker. He wants to move the needle, and also, I think there's a certain level of respect and credibility. Otherwise, Putin wouldn't have got onto a plane and gone to Alaska.
Who's won? Who's winning? And do you think this is progress, or this is just much ado about nothing?
Look, no one wins in a war, because there are casualties on both sides. But obviously, there's someone who is most likely to take the hit much more than the other. And I think when I assess, maybe from, I'm not a specialist in that area, but from what we pick in terms of the media coverages, it looks like both sides are really have suffered quite a lot. Ukraine, we are seeing what's happening, the bombardment and the destruction. But Russia is also, besides the bombardment and the destruction, there is the financial toll that the war has actually taken.
So do you think this is progress?
This is progress.
Okay.
And in fact, both sides, the way I read it, they need it. I don't see either of them wanting to push this conflict by another 6 months, a year, or two. And if they're doing that, it's really driven by ego, but not because of results that are tangible.
Okay. No, fair enough. So my view is to look at the positives, what I take from this. So the good things from all parties that are involved. So from Russia and Putin's perspective, I think that if you look at their statement from the Russian perspective, they've come out very clear, and this is something that he has done, which is good, which is he went into the historical alliance with America. That, we've worked well together in World War II. We defeated the Nazis. We were together. So, common areas of cooperation between the two parties. And I think that really is playing into Trump's idea of America. He likes to hear things like that. So I think that Russia doing that, Putin doing that, that's a good thing. Putin actually going to Alaska, because he doesn't need to, when you think about it. And whether he's playing games or not, but him getting onto that particular soil, to me, I think it shows
some goodwill.
Whether he can be trusted or not, hey, your guess is as good as mine. Then I look at, from Zelensky's perspective, I think number one, he actually wore a suit.
He didn't wear a suit, guys. That's not a suit.
No, that's a. So you know what a suit? Do you know what a suit is?
Okay, yeah, maybe unpack it for me.
Okay, so a suit is matching jacket and pants.
Okay.
That is a suit. And he did wear a suit. And not that it matters, but it certainly did matter for Trump. As far as Trump is concerned, it mattered that this guy, he's desecrating the office, and he must wear a suit. And it's some sort of, playbook. And well, you'll never be on the same wavelength, but at least you're discussing the things that matter, and everybody has had the same thing. Then it becomes more about what does it actually mean. But at least you've heard the same message and from the messenger. So I think that what the European parties have actually done is good, and I think that they get in there. As far as America is concerned, I think it bodes well for Trump that people are on his soil. I think this idea of America and its power
being in decline.
I think the last 2 days or 3 days have proved that to not be true.
He's making America great again.
He's definitely making America great again.
Typical MAGA.
And it's not even that. There is no reason for America to be involved. If the Europeans believed that they had the money and they had the wherewithal, they would have done a deal with Russia or talked directly with Russia. They don't need America there. But the reason why they need America is they need America's power, America's finances, and America's military wherewithal. It's very clear. And when you read, and you picked up on this, when you see what's happening with the budget deficits around Europe, they cannot afford a military campaign. When Keir Starmer, when the UK started, when this war started, Keir Starmer wanted to, when he became Prime Minister, he wanted to have forces in Ukraine, a huge force in Ukraine. But now he's climbed down because the reality has
the money's not there.
The money is just not there. You can see what's happening with the Germany economy, and if Germany is coughing,
Europe is catching a flu.
And what is the significance of this to Africa and Zimbabwe?
Well, we want peace. I think that solving the Ukraine problem, global GDP will improve by about maybe 0.2 to 0.5%, and the world opening up, everybody is better off. War is
bad for everyone.
So there's this notion, and continuously that there's some people who benefit from the war. Yeah, very sectarian individuals will benefit.
Yes, the military-industrial complex. But just to give you some historical context, when the war started, and if you look at oil prices over the last 10 years, or 5 years even, they actually spiked.
Exactly.
2022, during when the invasion happened, and we are a net importer of oil, and we suffered from that.
Grain as well.
And
why are we not importing directly from Russia? Because we are in good books with Russia. That's what India is doing at a profit.
So Russia exports crude oil.
Okay, so you have to.
So you need a refinery to buy. I mean, it's when you think about some of these things, it's hilarious. Nigeria is one of Africa's biggest oil producers, and until a couple of years ago, they didn't have a refinery until Dangote built one. Right? So they used to export oil and import petrol and diesel. And the way things were going to go, if there's no deal, right? Because the stick that Trump is wielding is that he's going to sanction countries that import.
It's been hard on India.
Basically, what that will mean is that oil prices globally will be higher.
Yeah.
And we as net importers will suffer. At the pump, we'll just pay more. And the fact that, because Russia is one of the world's major exporters of natural resources, the fact that so many of their resources are not freely available in the global market affects, everyone, including us.
No, absolutely. And also they're a serious investor. Well, they used to be a serious investor in Africa. But now all their resources are being targeted to a particular war. So, I think we're all better off with peace in Ukraine and Russia. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Continue to like, continue to subscribe, and continue to retweet and to share. Otherwise, have yourself a wonderful Friday and a great weekend. Cheers.
Cheers.